Hey, it's Mark with Mark's Virtual Real Estate Channel. We're back with another Upland video, and today I'm going to talk about what my favorite city release was. I'd love to hear what your favorite release was as well. I'm going to kind of go through what happened in each of them, how I did in each of them, and the pros and cons of what I liked about those city releases, and then what are they going to release another city soon? What do you think is going to happen there? So, love to hear your thoughts. Love to see the comments. Love it when you like our videos. Love seeing new subscribers as well. And I have a real estate channel as well, Mark Ferguson Invest for More, where I talk about my real estate investments, flips, rentals, all that cool stuff too. So if you haven't checked that out, it's pretty interesting, at least to me, to see the contrast between real estate and virtual real estate like Upland. So if you're new to Upland, you can buy properties in certain cities in the United States right now. I'm sure they'll expand to the rest of the world at some point. They're the real actual lot sizes in real life, which is cool. And you can build on them, rent them. It's pretty fun. Cars should be coming soon. And you can see they've released quite a few cities. And when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. I just went to New Orleans, bought a few properties there. But that city had already been released. And I honestly like to just jump into things. I don't do as much research sometimes as I should. And so I had no idea that they're releasing new cities or how that worked or anything. But shortly after I, got into the game, they announced they're going to release the Bronx. So again, I had no idea how a city release worked. I started learning more and more about Upland and all that. And figured out I needed to go to New York and take a plane to Manhattan, and it was pretty fun, but also like, man, what am I doing? So anyway, the first city release I want to start off with is the Bronx, because that's the first one I was a part of. Now, of course, there's Manhattan, Cleveland, Rutherford, was that Staten Island, the Bronx, Cleveland, Nashville, San Francisco, Oakland, Kansas City, Chicago, New Orleans, I think, Santa Ana, Bakersfield, Fresno. Did I get them all? I think those were all there before I joined. So I definitely was not one of the first people on here, but it's still building and growing now. So the Bronx was my first city release. And you can see here, I have lots of properties here. That's one. This is in Manhattan. This is kind of the cutoff line, this river here for the Bronx in this. So this whole area right here is the Bronx. And how Upland does a city release is they'll do a stress test. This is my first stress test, which was pretty stressful, and I don't know if they did them before that, but it didn't go well. And they had one in Kingsbridge where they released one city, or one neighborhood in a city, and here we'll zoom in here a little bit. You can see these are all the properties, and they're unminted to begin with. So that means that your block explorer, which is a guy who kind of wanders around, if he gets within a certain range of a property that hasn't been minted yet, I can click on it, mint it, buy it for whatever price Upland sets on it from the very beginning. And then prices can go up, sometimes they can go down after that. But usually minting properties in really good locations can make you a lot of money, or UPIX in Upland. So that was interesting. And Kingsbridge, when they opened Kingsbridge, I got 4 properties, I believe. But the game was just stopping, completely dead. They turned it off. They turned it back on again. All kinds of stuff was happening. Just too many people in one area trying to buy properties and move, and it didn't go well. And they had other stress tests that kind of did the same thing the next day, and then they kept delaying it and saying, oh, we're not going to open the whole city. So it was a little bit frustrating for me on that side of it, but I did get some good properties in Kingsbridge. And then I think Baychester, and was it Pelham Gardens were the next stress test, if I remember right. I can't remember exactly. Or maybe it's Williamsbridge. It might have been Williamsbridge. And so you could buy properties there. And then they released the whole city. That went smoother. Fewer problems, but I think there still were some problems. So overall, my first experience of the city releases was like, holy cow. It's kind of stressful because it keeps stopping and freezing and not working right. And then they keep delaying the schedule, so that kind of messed up what my schedule was, and luckily I could make it work. But I know some people literally took off work for the city release, and then they changed the day and just messed them up. So that, I'm sure, was extremely frustrating for some people. But I got a lot of really good properties, and I bought or minted properties in City Island and Country Club, Pelham, all over here. Lots of them in Throgs Neck, down here in Carlson Point, minted properties. Oh yeah, a lot of them up here in this area, Wakefield. Got a lot of really cheap stuff all over. And then after everything minted out in, I think, the first couple hours, it was crazy. So that was something that kind of set my expectations for the next releases we'll talk about that didn't really happen. But I was like, oh my gosh, every single property minted out right away. You could sell them for a pretty big markup right away. There was no sitting on properties. If you wanted to sell them for a profit, you could. And then before the collections were announced, I kind of went around and bought properties in almost every neighborhood I could just to try and have a chance of getting collections. And I hit some collections, Pelham Bay, or was it Morris Park, I think, were collections. Throg's Neck I hit a bunch. City Island I hit. And then I missed some. I had some minted up here in North Riverdale, but Riverdale ended up being the really good collection. I had a property in Concourse Village, but Concourse ended up being the high collection there. Didn't hit any streets, but it's a really fun, really successful release. And then after the collections were announced, I bought some properties in Mott Haven. Really love that neighborhood still. The mint to value there is very strong still. If you want a good collection with a strong yield, Mott Haven is a really good place to be. And but still sold a lot of properties, made some good money, flipped a lot of properties in Riverdale, still have some up there. And it was a really fun release. So that release was good for me in making money and building my net worth, but it's also like, holy cow, this is stressful. Is Upland going to keep doing this with releases? So next, they released Berkeley and Alameda. So here's Oakland, and Oakland was, boy, it's hard to remember exactly. I think the line was right here for where Oakland was, and up here a little bit. And then all of this was new in Berkeley. And then down here they released Alameda too. And so they released them at the same time. Again, had a stress test in, this one, right? North Berkeley, yep. And then it was North Berkeley and Elmwood, right? I think so. I can't remember. They started here, then had another stress test here. It was hard to remember all this, but I minted lots of properties in the stress test again, made a profit on quite a few of them. And then in Elmwood, or no, I didn't. I minted properties to start with on Elmwood. That's what it was. So they had the street Telegraph here, and I bought properties. There's one right there in Oakland, so I could send my guy off in the right direction towards Telegraph. So I learned a lot in the Bronx about that and timing and different things. And I wanted to buy a bunch of stuff on Telegraph because Telegraph was a collection in Oakland. And I thought for sure it had to be a collection in Berkeley. It just didn't make sense to me that I would stop it right here. So I minted all kinds of properties along Telegraph and did really well. And I ended up, I don't think, I'm trying to think here. I sold almost all of them before the collections were announced. So I was minting them for 6,000-7,000 UPX and selling them for 80,000-90,000 UPX, making a great profit. And then I minted properties, let's see here. In Ocean View, got a couple here, got one on 6th Avenue here, got some in Poets Corner here. You can see they're still there. Minted a bunch up here in the Berkeley Hills area, Thousand Oaks. I still have some up here. I minted like 20-30 properties up here. And I sold most of them before the collections were announced. And that was my goal. Instead of trying to guess on collections and try and hope I got them all right, I wanted to sell a lot of them beforehand and collect my money early and then keep some to see if I hit the collections. And it worked out really well. Again, made a lot of money minting properties for 10 to 12,000 here, selling them for 18 to 22,000. Thousand Oaks is a little more expensive, and made a lot of money doing that. And then before the collections were announced, I bought a few more in other neighborhoods that were pretty affordable. And I minted some in Poets Corner, which was supposed to be really, a cool area. I didn't mint any in here or here, but like I said, minted a ton on Telegraph. And then one in Ocean View, one along 6th, and nothing in South Berkeley. And so Ocean View, again, was supposed to be a really, popular small neighborhood that had to be a collection. Extremely high prices there. And I believe I didn't sell my property here before the collection. Should have. And I didn't sell my property. It was 4th Street. That's right. Here. Or no, I sold one property on 4th Street before the collection. Then bought another before the collection was announced. And turns out Berkeley had the complete opposite of what everyone thought for collections. A lot of people are disappointed. And what you saw is no 4th Street, no Ocean View, no Poets Corner, no Thousand Oaks. The collections ended up being South Berkeley, which nobody expected. And so then I bought some properties and flipped them there, and still have a few here, as you can see. And then University of California, Berkeley, which some people had suspected, but still I didn't do anything there. It was very expensive there. And what's funny is even though this became a collection, people hit it, stuff was not priced any higher after the collection was announced, maybe like right after, but after things settled down, than what you could sell them for beforehand. And prices in Thousand Oaks, Berkeley, dropped significantly. Ocean View, I could still sell my property. I did for a pretty good markup, but it's still less than it would have been. The 4th Street values dropped significantly. And Telegraph was not a collection. I thought that was crazy. And I still had properties on Telegraph. And it kind of worked out, but it kind of showed why it was crazy too, in that people were still buying my properties on Telegraph for 80 to 100,000 UPIX after it wasn't announced as a collection. And I'm 90% sure they thought it was a collection and were making mistakes, which kind of sucks for them. But I mean, that's why I thought it had to be a collection. I can see why they didn't do it, because people would know, but still. And I still flip some properties on Telegraph once in a while. This one's a really good deal, and I've had it for sale for a while. But there's still people that come along and buy these sometimes. And then this is my big mistake I made here. I bought a property right here thinking it was on Telegraph, and it wasn't. It was on Regent Street. So that was kind of a waste of UPIX. But you make mistakes like that, and you learn. Okay, so this one went smoother. There were still hiccups for freezing and different things going on during the release. Again, people were frustrated, but it's slightly smoother than the Bronx. And then down here in Alameda, I didn't do anything. I wanted to focus on North Berkeley area. And then I came back down here and bought a couple in collections and did some different things after all was said and done. And then I actually someone traded me a property along the water here quite a while after that. And I did really well on that. I don't even remember where it was. But they traded me, maybe it's a Venice property in Los Angeles for one of these waterfront ones. And I sold it for quite a bit more than I could have sold the Venice one. So that was kind of cool. But again, the waterfront stuff, whew, that's expensive. Can sometimes do well. So I ranked Bronx a little better than Berkeley because of the collections. I think the collections were a little bit off. I think they tried to trick people here instead of do what maybe would have been more obvious. And I think that kind of hurt some people and had some bad taste in their mouth because of it. But it's still a fun collection. It's still sold out right away. This one sold out right away too. Nothing left to mint. So I rank it right now, Bronx 1, Berkeley 2 from what we've seen. Now going back down here, next up was Los Angeles. And so we had South Los Angeles and North Los Angeles. And they did South Los Angeles, then a week later North Los Angeles. And here they did on the stress test. Oh, it was up here somewhere, right? Was it Glassell Park? Is it Eagle Rock? I can't even. Or Highland. Maybe it's Highland Park. I can't remember. I should remember that. Anyway, one of these up here. Or was it Montecito Heights? I don't know. Maybe it's Montecito Heights. But I had sent my guy from the train for the stress release, and somehow, I think maybe it was Montecito Heights right along here. I can't remember exactly. He was going right along the neighborhood. So I was able to mint a lot of properties, like 12 in the first stress test, sold them right away, made a good profit. And then they had another stress test in, was it Fairfax? And I think Fairfax was one. And then down south, one of these two, Harbor City, if I remember right. And so those went okay too. Again, some glitches, some freezing, but it was getting better and better. And then they did the full release of the city. And I think what surprised a lot of people in this release was everything was so expensive. So expensive. Wherever you minted things, it was so pricey. So I had a property in Fairfax, I think that's right. And I kind of sent my guy off into Hollywood. And I was able to get one property in Hollywood here. before, and that's Melrose. I tried to get properties on Melrose. I could not. They just minted right away. I think I got this property right here, or this one. Sold it for a profit. Not a huge profit because it was so big. Got a property there. Everything minted out almost immediately. And then I sent my guy over to Venice and minted properties here, but they were 60 to 70,000 minting. I'm not in Venice. There's Venice. And I'm just like talking to myself, is this a mistake? Am I spending too much money? I'm like, no. The other one sold out right away. It has to sell out. And so I went to Venice, bought some properties there, bought some properties in Del Rey, thinking that would be a cool area. And then I went down to Englewood, bought properties here. And I'm trying to think if I minted anywhere else. So I can't remember. Oh yeah, I went to Koreatown and Beverly Grove. I think that's about it. And what I noticed was stuff was not minting out this time. It wasn't going right away. There's lots of things in Venice, other neighborhoods. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So what I did is I came through, minted a bunch of really cheap stuff in this area, in Morningside Park, and then some other stuff in the Westwood area up here. And after the full day, there was still tons of things available in South Los Angeles. And so I definitely did not do as well profiting. I was able to sell some cheap stuff, make some profit there, sell a Hollywood property, some other properties, but it wasn't nearly as productive as my other releases. And then it threw a lot of people for a loop too, how expensive everything was. People like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And then we had North Los Angeles next, and I literally spent all my money down here and wasn't really able to get as much back as I thought because things weren't selling. And so for North Los Angeles, I decided to completely change my strategy. And instead of going for neighborhoods because things were so expensive, I was going to go for a street. And so what I did is I had property in Westwood. And where are we here? That's it. I had properties in here, but I bought one or minted one right around here. And then before the North Los Angeles release, and I can't remember where they did their stress test. I didn't partake in that one, I don't believe, because I wanted my guy to be sending in the right direction. And so I did not participate in that one, if I remember correctly. And then so I sent my guy in this along Sunset, thinking Sunset Boulevard, I want to focus on a road this time, not a neighborhood, because I think there's stuff's not going to mint out again. And so I sent him off, and then he's going the wrong direction, and he got off course, and I send him back again. I'm like, oh, I messed up. I'm not going to have time. And then they delayed the release because they had some issues again. And so because of that delay, my Explorer went right along Sunset Boulevard in the perfect area, and I was able to mint 9, 12, 10 properties all along Sunset, and I think the 25 to 40,000 UPX range. Sold all of them over 100, I believe. Maybe a few were under 100. Made a lot of money on Sunset Boulevard. So I minted to my little heart's delight there. And then I came back up here to Ventura, and I minted stuff on Ventura too. So a lot of you saw me doing that. There's a lot of properties still available on Ventura, even after minting on Sunset. And is that situation where we're just waiting for some to pop up to send our people to. And bought 4 or 5 properties. This is one of them along Ventura. Made a really good profit on those too, because I sold most of those for a big profit beforehand. Then Ventura and Sunset got named collections. And so a lot of people might say, oh, you should have held on to them, you would have made more money. But actually, again, with both Sunset and Ventura, once they became collections, the markup wasn't that much higher than what they're selling for before they were announced. It's really got to be kind of a rare, ultra rare, collection to really have a huge markup. And I've just done so much better selling stuff beforehand. But anyway, after doing the Ventura thing, I did mint some more properties just all over like every neighborhood. And they're all pretty cheap in the, some as low as 4,000 UPX to 6,000 UPX, thinking I have to be able to sell this stuff. It's got to be a good profit at some point. And I did sell a lot of them, but I still have a lot of them here too, as you can see. And a lot of them are still for sale. Still tons of stuff to be able to mint in Los Angeles. Almost everywhere you go, if I scroll in here, you'll find stuff you can mint. But again, it's expensive. It's so expensive. So, in the Los Angeles release, I made good money in North Los Angeles, focusing on streets, not neighborhoods. And then didn't do nearly as well in South Los Angeles. So I'm going to lump these together because they're kind of the same. And this is by far my least favorite release so far, just because of the prices, some glitches, and it's still not minted out. And I spent a lot of money there that I didn't get back out. Okay, now next up, where am I going? Europe, apparently. After they did Los Angeles, they announced Detroit. And so Detroit was pretty fun for me. So again, they did a stress test, which was, was it Greenfield and like something over here? I forgot. Morningside, maybe? I feel like every town has a Morningside neighborhood. Like, that's just a requirement. If you start a town, you've got to have a Morningside neighborhood. Anyway, so I had my guy, again, sent my person to Detroit, to the train. Always want to get there early so you don't run out of cents to get there. And let him wander around. And the morning of the release, they're releasing, they're doing the stress test, and then the full release in the same day. So that was kind of different because I don't know if they did that in the other cities. They didn't do that in the next one either. But I had my Block Explorer wandering around, and he was wandering right towards, where am I here? Oh, is that Brush Park? No. There's Brush Park. So in that morning, he was just wandering this direction. And I'm like, I am not partaking in those stress tests. He is going right along Woodward. And a lot of people said Woodward was a good area. He's going towards downtown. Most downtown areas are expensive. Even if they aren't collections, you can sell them beforehand. And I thought, I'm just going to let him go. I'm going to let him just make his merry little way down this direction and not participate in the stress test. And Upland Analysis has some great videos on predicting what collections will be, and I listened to him on some stuff, and he talked about Woodward. A lot of other people were too. And then Gratiot, I don't even know if I say it right. I say it weird anyway. Was another one I had my eye on. For some reason, I just really liked that. So my guy kept going the right way, and then right along here, he wandered through here when it was released. I was able to get this theater, which, woo! I didn't sell it for that much, but I ended up selling it for 400 and some thousand. I was thinking about this one. I think about this one and that one maybe. Sold them all, made huge markups on those. And then once that was minted out, I ended up going up here along Gratiot. And I just don't want to say Gratiot. That just sounds weird. But anyway, minted stuff up here, all along here. And they had some delays and problems here, but I just kept minting. And some people said they couldn't, so I don't know if I got lucky or what. But I got all kinds of named properties along here too. And I got probably 12 to 14 properties along here. I got a gas station. I got a Church's Chicken. I got a supermarket. I got all kinds of a church, just a shopping center, just tons of stuff along here. And that was really fun. And I just kept getting stuff. I'm like, man, this is cool. And then I ended up selling a lot of it beforehand. Made probably close to $1 million upics just on Gratiot alone. And then it was announced as a collection as well, so the stuff I had afterwards was still worth some money. But again, I was selling stuff for just as much or more before the collection was announced than after. So again, that just kind of reiterates my strategy of selling stuff before the collections are announced. And then I went along, and before they're announced, bought a few properties in different areas, like one on 8 Mile, but nothing crazy. And then when the collections were announced, I jumped in, bought a bunch in Brush Park, because they're really cheap, made money there, but still have a lot there, as you can see. And some down here, and made some money there. And then I made some mistakes, too, by buying a bunch on Grand Avenue, thinking it would be a very expensive street. And I still have those and probably overpaid for those. Overpaid for some in Midtown. So, made a lot of money, but also got a little too excited when the collections were announced and tried to buy a lot of stuff right away. And then, as you know, we started our node here, our Henry Ford node, after that, and it's been doing really well. I keep buying properties there, but our floor is close to 20,000 right now, and So if you want to participate, it's a lazy node. You just buy stuff and build stuff. That's the whole goal. So you can see, here's my build, which if you want to contribute to it, that's always cool too. 27 days left there because I've got 2 other builds going on in our next city release. And I would rank, Detroit was one of my favorite ones. I think I would rank Detroit number 2 behind the Bronx, just because the Bronx was still so much fun. And it being one of my first ones. And then the last release I participated in was Queens. And so Queens, again, it's kind of hard to see the boundary along here somewhere. And again, they had the city release, the release up here, Jackson Heights and Woodside. They did it the day before, then had the release the next day, which I think was really smart, a good idea, because then you're not conflicted about, do I mint in the stress test or do I mint in the city release? You can do both. So what my strategy here was to do streets again. And so I had properties in Woodside, sent my Explorer off this way to get Queens Boulevard, and then I think I made a mistake. A lot of people pointed this out. I kept waiting for the properties to be released and turn colors, but I wasn't moving my mouse. I wasn't scrolling. So I think my page refreshed right away. And when I finally did that, even though my Block Explorer was right along here, all these were gone. They were all minted. I didn't get anything on Queens. So I was really kind of sad. But that's okay. So then I'm like, I've got to find something else to mint. I went to Long Island City, got some stuff there, sold it, did well there. And then I went down to the Rockaway Beach area and bought properties along Rockaway Beach Boulevard. There's still stuff to be minted down here. Got some along here. And then, again, minted a lot of properties just that what I thought were cheap in this area. Tried to sell a lot of my Rockaway Beach ones before the collection. It wasn't selling as well as I thought. So I did sell some, but I still have quite a few here. Minted a big beachfront property, which I thought might be a mistake because it's so expensive. And it still might be a mistake. We'll see if it sells. It's still kind of cool, but definitely not flipping as easy as I thought. And so I did sell some Rockaway Beach stuff. Still have some. Minted a bunch here in Arverne, sold a lot of it, and didn't really mint. Oh, I minted some in just small stuff up here, real cheap stuff, did okay there. Then the collections were announced. Rockaway Beach was not a collection, so my properties dropped that I didn't sell. Long Island City was, and again, they went up some, but not a ton. Astoria was, had a few properties there, did okay. Sunnyside was, I had a few properties there that I did mint as well, did okay there. But everywhere else, they're still worth about what I minted them for. Nothing too much more. And then when the collections were announced, I did jump in and I was able to mint properties in Hollis Hills and then flip them real quick. That worked out well. And some in Astoria that we've sold to after the collections were announced. There's still neighborhoods that hadn't been minted out. And yes, the Queens is still not minted out either. I know Upland Analysis said he thought Radish Head it would mint out right away, and I kind of did too after seeing all the excitement here, but it has not. There's still plenty of properties available to mint here. You can see them all along here in different neighborhoods. So again, we started our own node in Neponset recently, so you can see I've been buying properties here. Our prices have been going up, down, and I've got a couple properties here I'm building as well. I know other people are building here too, so that's cool to see. Again, if you want to contribute to mine or anybody else's to help the node, that's awesome. We're getting closer on that one. But this release, it went really smooth. There were hardly any hiccups. It wasn't my favorite, mostly because of my fault in my strategy and maybe not refreshing my screen as much. So I didn't make as much money in this release, that's for sure. But it still went smoothly. I think the collections were pretty close to what they should have been. So I can't get too mad at myself for it. So I think I'd still rank it above Los Angeles. But I think it ranks second to last just because of my personal not doing so well. So overall, for the last releases, I think I ranked Bronx number 1, Detroit number 2, even though there's still properties there. Just I had a ton of fun in Detroit. I don't know, I just love Detroit. And affordable prices there too. I think I would go Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda 3, then Queens 4, and Los Angeles 5 for the last 5 releases. So Los Angeles was just so expensive. I think that scared a lot of people away from the game as well and worried a lot of people. And they're kind of trying to get that reputation back a little bit with the last 2 releases, having less expensive properties. We'll see if it works. But still, there's lots of properties out there to mint for people, right? There's no shortage. So I guess that brings up the next question. I know this video's been long. Should they release something now or soon or the next month, or should we wait a while? I almost kind of think it wouldn't hurt to wait a while to let more players in, get some of these properties sold, and really help stabilize the market. I think it was a lot easier to play and understand what was going on when the Bronx sold out, when Oakland or Berkeley sold out, and you didn't have all these properties for sale. Now we have all these properties for sale, minted, available to mint still in Los Angeles, Detroit, Queens. They could. I mean, do we want them to stay like that and open for a really long time, or do you want to kind of have them build up to a more stable economy? I like having a more stable economy. It builds more excitement for the next releases as well too. But that's just me to make the game more fun and the releases more exciting. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of my list. I didn't list the other ones because I didn't participate in those releases, so I don't know how they went. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and what your plans are too for the future of Upland. I know nodes are fun. I'm going to focus on some of those. But then, what else is going on out there? All right, thanks for watching. Love the comments, love the shares, love the likes. Keep those coming. We'll be back with more soon.